Hello, everybody, and welcome to Kickstart Kasten Part 3. So, a quick reminder, on the first day, we installed Rocky Linux in a VM in Proxmox. And the second day, yesterday, we installed K3s. So we have Rocky Linux VM, we have K3s, which is a lightweight Kubernetes distribution, and now we're going to install Kubevirt, which should be pretty crazy. Oh, and by the way, we installed Longhorn as well, so we'd have some storage, which always helps. So this is going to be even more fun. I have not done this yet on Rocky Linux. I've done it on Ubuntu many times. And as we've seen in the previous two episodes, there can be little surprises with different versions or distributions of Linux. So let's get started. A reminder, at the end of this series, or let's say halfway through, I will actually provide written instructions for this. But I want people to look and try to do it first with the video, because a lot of times people say, I don't want to listen to this guy. I'll just do it myself. The whole point of this is to have fun, right? To experience all the trials and tribulations of trying to install something in a different operating system. Okay, so to install Kubevirt, again, reminder, default Kubernetes distributions, vanilla ones, do not come with Kubevirt installed. Kubevirt is a basic, it's like KVM, KVM, which like Proxmox basically has KVM in it and other hypervisors, Kubevirt is KVM, but inside Kubernetes. So what do we have to add to Kubernetes? What do we normally add when we add extra functionality and things? Yes, I said it yesterday, CRDs. What does that stand for? Custom Resource Definitions. Easiest way to think about this is that if you type kubectl or kubectl, whatever you want to call it, get something, and you get an answer saying, I don't know what that is, I have no clue, you know that something's not been added. A custom resource definition has not been added. So we're going to install Kubevirt. If I do right now, I'll just show you my screen. If I type right now, okay, K, remember we created that shortcut alias, get VMs, what does it say? It says error. Server doesn't have a resource type VMs, means it doesn't know what that is. Once we've installed Kubevirt, it'll know what that is. It'll say none found or something like that, but it will understand what you're talking about. So that's the whole concept about these additions that you put into Kubernetes, like custom resource definitions. Very good. Think about it like a Lego blocks. You're adding little pieces, and it's always fun to do it that way. All right, so let's get started. There are various ways to install a lot of these things, but I'm going to take the one that's on the website, the Kubevirt website. By default, again, all these instructions will be added later. This is just the fun excitement of watching this live. Okay, we're going to export this. We want to get a version, right? So it's going to go to the website and get the release, the stable release. You see stable text, and it's going to put that into an environment variable. And then we're going to do a kubectl command. Now, just like curl, you can use a kubectl command and a -f, not just for a local file, but for a remote file too. Obviously, for production, I wouldn't do that. You'd be more careful because security, unless someone hacked the site and put their own bad YAML in there. But for local tests, it should be okay. All right, so what we're going to do, we're going to echo the version. So it's gotten that version already. It knows what the latest stable version is. And it's going to create. And what it's going to create, remember I talked about operators? The operators, they add these custom resource definitions into Kubernetes. That's what it's going to do. So let's press that, see what happens. So there we go. We see it's version 7. That's the first thing we saw. And then everything's been created. Okay, so now if I do kget VMs, what do I see? Still don't see it because I haven't finished the installation. So what's the next stage? The next stage is, oh, I see. So that was just the operator. I'm sorry, it's just the operator. That's one piece. But here it actually has kubevirt-cr. CR, I'm assuming, stands for custom resources. So here it is. Let's take a look at this. Kubectl create. So we can do that for local files if we want, -f. And then it goes to this site, GitHub, and Kubevirt, and kubevirt-cr, custom resources. I'm pretty certain that's what it is. It's been created. Let's try it again. Still not. Very interesting. Perhaps it could be that after you actually, so it's loaded these pieces, but now it has to initiate them, I believe. We will see. Very interesting. Unless I've forgotten one more thing. Okay, let's verify the components. There's another possibility too. Things have to get installed, and it sometimes takes a while. So let's take a look. There should now be a namespace, a special namespace, Kubevirt, okay? It created that as part of the YAML. Let's see what's running in there. And I bet you things just hadn't completed yet. Okay, now everything is, but take a look. We still have some that are not fully up and ready. In Kubernetes, if things are running well, you're going to see running, but you also have to see ready if it's ready. And it should say like 1 of 1, so 1 container of 1, 2 of 2, 3 of 3, 4 of 4. It could say anything like that. So right now it isn't ready yet. It'll be ready when all of those say ready 1, 1. Oh, and look, there's even more. Surprise, surprise. I actually knew that. I was just playing with you. Taking a while to install. A lot depends on your resources, how powerful your system is. This can take a little while. And you see it's initializing something. So there we've caught it initializing. Okay, so some are running, some are initializing. Now what you could do, instead of just retyping this in, you can do -W, and that'll show you on the fly. Okay, so for instance, right now the only thing that's left is the handler. The handler. Oh, and look, something's terminating. This is live, folks. And it might not be a bad thing terminating. When these things are installing, it's doing all sorts of things. Some things are doing a job and they're terminating, coming back. But right now, we can see that this virt handler VN8HL, whatever that is not. Oh, but look, it is running now. See, as I was talking, it completed and is running. Okay, so let's do a Control-C to stop that. Get out of the way and just see a clean picture of what we have now. So right now, it says everything's running. Okay, let's try it again one more time. And now let's do kget VMs. Boom, see? No resources found in the default namespace. Again, I just did kget VMs, which means by default, it's going to go to default. And I have nothing in default. But I have nothing anywhere because I haven't created any virtual machines. That's it. Kubevirt is installed. The custom resource definitions are there because I asked it, do you have any VMs in default namespace? And it said no resources found in default namespace. Remember before it was saying error. I have no clue what you're talking about, Jeff. Go have some lunch. All right. Wonderful. So Kubevirt's installed. But doing everything from the command line, even though I enjoy it tremendously, it is nice to have a UI, so we want to address that as well. But also, we want to use a tool for another little tool for our installation, and it's called virtcll. So all these CTL are control. So right now, I don't have it installed. virtctl, command not found. We're going to install that. That'll allow us to actually directly send commands to Kubevirt onto the VM. So like start VM, stop VM, all that kind of thing. So we'll right click that in there. Again, all we're doing is I'm getting a version to get the latest version, right? So that's getting a version. And then the architecture, it's going to see what my machine is running. Which is interesting because I got Windows in there. I might have done this before on a Windows machine. Interesting. We don't want that. Let's just, so I did my notes and I might have done this on Windows. That's why. So let's just quickly go. When in doubt, check the documentation. I will just go over to here and I will go to Kubevirt, or no, let's say install virtctl. If I could type virtctl Kubevirt. Although I think virtctl, it can be used for KVM things in general, but let's take a look. All right, what happened there? Nothing happened. Install virtctl. But there we go. Oh, it took a while. There we go. And it's on the Kubevirt page. So we're all set. Let's go into there. Double check. Alrighty. So yeah, I don't know. I must have done that for Windows before. Very simple. Let's just do this. Now there are other ways you can do it too. You can use crew if you like. I don't think that's in Rocky. Let's just use this default method, which is, they're using wget. So instead of curl. Fine. Let's go back to our system. Let me just find it. There we are. Oops. Okay, we'll right click. And we get commands not found. So we found something else that doesn't exist in Rocky by default. What do? We DNF it. But how do we do it? Sudo. You're right. Sudo DNF. We need to escalate privileges. Install wget. We put in our password. And we're happy. Yes, we're happy. Okay. And it works. And we have our virtctl. Wonderful. Now, that is probably just like downloaded locally here, which is wonderful, but doesn't help us. What we want to do is to put that into USR local bins so that I can just type in everywhere. If I type that in here now, virtctl, doesn't know what it is. So first of all, I don't also want it to be that long thing, so we're going to move it from virtctl to just virtctl. Okay, that's the command. And then we're going to make sure it's executable. You don't want to execute it, but yes, you do. I never thought of that. Execution, execute. Anyways, execute a command. So sudo chmod plus x virtctl, thank you. And last but not least, we want to move it into USR local bin so it's in the path. So sudo move or copy, probably moves better so I don't get confused, to USR local bin. Okay, so now if we type virtctl, what do we get? Boom, we get a command that works. Thank you very much. It only took an hour. Right, we're all set. Okay, in fact, it says you could have typed sudo virtctl install virtctl. That's weird. That must have been a mistake. Anyways, it's installed. Who cares? So we have virtctl in there. That'll allow us to deal directly with VMs. But what are we going to do next? Well, next we probably want to install some kind of a graphic manager because, again, doing this in the command line might not be that much fun. So that's what we're going to do next. We're going to do that today. Don't worry. We won't leave you hanging in the command line. So we're going to install something called Kubevirt Manager. Very simple, and this will allow us to actually have a UI where we can see things, which can always be very helpful. Okay, so we want to install Kubevirt Manager to make sure that you can get in and see this easily. Now this is also going to be another deployment, so it's going to have its own kind of section, and to access it, like we talked about before, you're going to need to access it through a service. So what I want to do is make this accessible right away. I'm not going to bother with ingress for now. I'm going to use node port. I talked about that in the previous ones. That just basically takes a port on your local VM and opens it up and directs it directly to this application. So to do that, there's a few things I have to do. We're going to use Helm, so we have to add the Helm chart. So let's do that first. Let me just get this and add it. So it's a very simple command. We did that before, remember, with Longhorn. Helm repo add Kubevirt Manager, and then it tells you where the chart is located. Remember, we talked about Helm having charts. So we'll add that, and ooh, look at that. It cannot be reached. So there's a problem. Let me check my internet connection and check that everything's working. It's always fun to have problems. Okay, interesting, wild times. So sometimes what happens is there'll be a Helm chart, but for whatever reason, it stops being supported. So maybe it wasn't even supported by the original team, or maybe they decide to move away from it. One never knows. So we're going to do another way of installing this. Isn't this fun? We're going to install it from the YAML file. But I want to make that change. Remember what I told you about the service to make a change? So this is a good example of how we can do that. So I have found the download, the one that we want, the YAML file. Okay, I found that, and I don't want to apply it. So what am I going to do? I'm going to grab it locally. Okay, and you can do this through curl, or you can do this through wget. Since we just got wget, let's use that for fun. So I'm going to go to the location, and there it is. It's Kubevirt Manager, and it's the bundled YAML. All right, and look, it's arrived, and you can see it right there under bundled. In fact, really what I should do if this was production, I would create little folders and call it Kubevirt Manager, and then put that in there. I could even rename it. It wouldn't have to be bundled. In fact, I'll do that right now anyways, because in a week's time I'll come, what the heck's bundled? It sounds like it's before Christmas, so maybe it's like a bundle of presents. So we're going to move bundled, because this name has no meaning for anything other than just the name. So you could call it Santa Claus, doesn't matter. I know it's Kubevirt Manager, so we're going to say Kubevirt Manager YAML. Okay. And now let's go in there, and I'm using V, and let's change the service. So let's look for service. Okay, service, where are you? That's not the one I wanted. Let's do it again, service, and go next. In fact, I should really do type. If you type, you will get the services. No, I don't want that. Let's just see, it'll have the service here. Let's type, because it's always a type of service. And okay, no, try it again. This is a big YAML file. Okay, so let's type recreate. It's not the one we want. Type cluster IP. This is what we wanted. So as you can see, this is the service for Kubevirt Manager. So it's going to expose that Kubevirt Manager. And right now it's a cluster IP. And if you remember from one of the last episodes, like episode 1 even, cluster IP means it's only accessible within the cluster. And so we don't want that. So we're going to do node port, type node port. Okay, and the thing is that it will, by default, just pick a node port. And that's fine, except that every time you reboot this, well, you're not going to reboot it, but if you restart it for whatever reason, it might pick another node port. So you'll be looking for it. Hey, it was there and it wasn't. So node ports have to be very high up, 3000 something. So I'm just going to pick a random one, but I'm going to hard code it. So node port, and let's say 3000, I don't know, 3305. I mean, really, it has to be over 33,000 or 30,000, I think. Can't remember. I think it's 30,000. It has to be very high up. They don't want it to interfere with any other potential ports, right? So that's why they do that. All right, so we've done that. And theoretically, we should be okay. So let's do K apply, 1L, F, and remember, it's not bundled anymore. We changed it to that. Let's see what happens. Okay, it said it's created. Now, there's one interesting thing which I might have made a mistake, and we're going to find out very quickly. And let's see if you can guess what that mistake was. Let's do K get pods. Now, when I do that command, where is it going to look for the pods? It's going to look in the default namespace. Remember I said when you deploy things Kubernetes, you want to deploy them in their own namespaces, preferably, because it gets messy. And we will find out now if good. That means that in that YAML file, it had namespace in there. So I wasn't certain. I should check that. So now let's do K get namespaces, and we should see a new namespace called Kubevirt Manager. Okay, we're all good. I did not make a mistake. I just was sloppy. I should have checked and been 100% certain. Like our last installation, we should check to make sure it's finished before we try to go in there and fool around, because we'll get all excited and upset and we'll think everything's broken. Sometimes it just takes a while to load. Okay, this is a small deployment. It's one pod, Kubevirt Manager. Let's look at the service to make sure that it has gotten created as a node port service. So K get service, where? Yes, in the namespace, Kubevirt Manager, not Kubevirt, but Kubevirt Manager. Okay, and look at that. Type node port, and the node port is 305. So 30,305. Okay, so let's just, rather than remember that, not very difficult, but nevertheless, I'm going to just do that. And now let's see if we can see something. So let's go to our browser, and we will go to that Kasten. What do we call it? We called it Kasten K01, but this time it's 305. Remember before, the one we did yesterday was a different 30,000? Okay, and let's take a look. Isn't that beautiful? That's something to tell you about right now. But this is what we have. That's Kubevirt Manager. Beautiful. I love it. It's very good. However, there is one issue, and this gets a little bit complicated, but it's fun, right? This is great, and I could theoretically create a VM. However, I want to be able to upload ISOs and run from ISOs. And for that, you need yet another kind of a piece in the puzzle called the CDI, Containerized Data Importer. Don't worry, we know how to install. That's what's going to be used when you import an ISO. Because what it's going to do, it's going to take the ISO and it's going to create a persistent volume claim with that. Okay? Don't worry about all terminology. It's just one extra piece of the puzzle. This, for instance, in OpenShift and in Harvester has been done for you. So you would never even see this. But here it hasn't, so we have to do it ourselves. All right, we're going to head back to the command line. Go back to our command line. Okay, let's clear it to make it nice and clean space. And we will now install the CDI, okay? Containerized Data Importer. So what I've done here, I've done things a little differently. Well, similar. So I'm going to take this version here, version 1.60. Again, I'm going to put it into an environment file, an environment variable, I'm sorry. And then let's just check to make certain it's been set. Give me a second. I'm copying and pasting because I don't want to type all this out. Yes, that's good. And now we are going to install another operator. This is a CDI operator. Again, it's going to create components that are not by default in Kubernetes. Okay, so we're going to send that off. Everything's been created. Good. Next, we have to install the custom resources. So this is very similar to the other things we've just installed. You'll get used to this, and you don't have to memorize it. This is a lot. You think, my goodness, this is ridiculous. No. The idea is to understand the concepts, and then you just every time Google it, or you put it in your notes, and you put and then periodically you check documentation if something changes, because obviously you're not going to remember all this all the time. There's no point. You don't install these things that often. Okay, and now we want to see. Let's just see if it's created the namespace. Okay. In fact, I think this installs inside of Kubevirt. So let's go inside. Let's get the pods, but shortened for pods, in the Kubevirt namespace. Okay. And we can see the operator, controller. Okay. The CID was created. All right. Okay. So let's just see. Let's do a wait command. So this is another way you can also wait for things to be ready. I don't like it as much. You can actually do this command here, and it's just going to sit there. And okay, it said it's installed. You can do a kubectl wait and then put the conditions in, whatnot. I find, I mean, if it's a huge deployment, maybe, but a lot of deployments, by the time you actually copy and paste that, or goodness gracious, type that out, it's already finished. So you've wasted your time. As you can see, the conditions already been met. So it's been installed. So now, if we go back to here, we notice the red warning is gone. The red warning is gone, and we have no virtual machines yet. We're going to install that tomorrow. Okay, that's the fun. That's the one of the most fun parts. But right now we have Kubevirt running, and we have Kubevirt Manager, and we have the containerized data importer, so we can bring in ISOs. Tomorrow we are going to create our first VM in Kubernetes, our VM inside of Kubevirt, which Kasten will later back up. Thank you very much, and see you tomorrow in part 4.